Nothing, not a whole bunch, but one here and there.
Yeah, we're looking for. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Spaghetti Western Podcast. This is season 4, episode 4, number 89. I thought while Jay was away working on his new podcast, his retro television, and his new horror podcast with C. Courtney Joyner, we'd sneak in a Winnetou overview so he wouldn't know and get upset. So today we're going to talk about the German Winnetou films. We'll talk about whatever became of Lex Barker. Who are these guys? Will be Pierre Boulez. Film of the week will be the last Winnetou film, Winnetou Returns. The LP of the week will be Old Shatterhand. I've got a couple of posters for you, an autograph, and a book. So let's get started. The German Winnetou films, there were actually 11 Winnetou Western films released between 1962 and 1968. They were based on the popular Karl May, or do they pronounce it May, films and novels written by him in the late 1800s while he served a prison sentence. And they're heavily based on James Fenimore Cooper's Last of the Mohicans, and the Hawkeye and Chingachgook are the central figures, changed to Winnetou and his scout buddies. May penned nearly 30 tales of the great Apache warrior Winnetou and his blood brother, Old Shatterhand, between 1875 and 1910. And millions of copies of these were sold throughout Europe. Karl May festivals are still carried out in several German towns to this day, and the German Karl May novels are as popular as the Mark Twain novels are here in the United States. The 11 films are Der Schatz im Silbersee, which is the treasure of Silver Lake, 1962, starring Lex Barker and Pierre Boulez. Winnetou One Teal, which is Apache Gold, the English title, 1963, with Barker and Boulez. Then came Old Shatterhand, or Apache's Last Battle, in 64, which was Lex Barker and Pierre Boulez. Followed again in 64 by Winnetou Two Teal, Last of the Renegades, with Barker and Pierre Boulez. And then it switches to 1964 with Untergären, which is Frontier Hellcat, which starred Stuart Granger and Pierre Boulez. Followed by Old Surehand, One Teal, which is Flaming Frontier, 1965, starring Stuart Granger and Pierre Boulez. And then Lex Barker pops up again in Winnetou und das Halbblut Apanachi, which is the half-breed, which is Barker and Pierre Boulez. Followed by Winnetou und sein Freund und Firehand in 66, which is Winnetou and Old Firehand, which is Rod Cameron and Pierre Boulez. And then Lex Barker makes a final appearance in Winnetou und Shatterhand in Tal der Toten in 68, which is the Valley of Death, which is Pierre Boulez and Lex Barker. And then in 1980, a television miniseries was made featuring Winnetou, Mein Freund Winnetou, which is a two-part miniseries with Pierre Boulez. And then in 1998, a two-part miniseries, Winnetou's Rucker, Return of Winnetou. And then in 2015, the last one, another TV miniseries called Winnetou, Der Mythos lebt. And in September of this year, Der Junge Hauptling Winnetou, the Young Chief Winnetou, will premiere in Germany. Much like the Zorro and White Fang movies, they seem to never end. The White Scouts were played by Lex Barker, who played Old Shatterhand 7 times, Stuart Granger as Old Surehand 3 times, and Rod Cameron as Old Firehand once. My friend John Crummett always wanted to know if the characters all knew each other and their relationship with Winnetou. In between, several other films with Winnetou character have been made. Even an animated series called Winnetoons came to German TV in 2002. Winnetou died in Winnetou 3, The Desperado Trail, but the fans were so outraged that he was brought back to the series. In 2001, a parody of these films was released called Der Schuh der Manitou. In English, translates into The Shoe of Manitou. It was a huge success, and it is the highest grossing German production with a gross of 63 million euros. Well-known German, Italian, French, and American actors had major roles in these films, such as Ghost Georgi, Herbert Lahm, Klaus Kinski, Ralph Walter, Mario Adorf, Elke Sommer, Mario Girardi, who later became Terence Hill, Rick Battaglia, Walter Barnes, Guy Madison, Larry Pennell, Rod Cameron, and Stuart Granger. Comedy relief was provided by a number of characters such as Sam Hawkins, Old Wobbles, Gunstick Uncle, the Prairie Poet, and Lord Castlepool, who was a butterfly collector. Beautiful actresses such as Dahlia Lavi, Elke Sommer, Karen Dorr, Dunja Rafter, and Marie Versini were added for window dressing in the films. Several different directors were involved, but Harold Reimel, 5, Alfred Vohr, 3, Harold Philipp, 2, and Hugo Fragonis, 1, were the predominant directors. Principal shooting usually took place in Peklencija or Planica Karst River Canyon National Park in Croatia. Most of the German and Yugoslavian poster art designs, as you can tell, look the same for most of the film series. The films are known for their simple stories of the good Indians always being blamed for the evil deeds of corrupt and greedy white men who want to their land for profit. The series should also be remembered for outstanding photography and the launching of the careers of several actors into the spaghetti genre. The Winnetou pictures inspired Italian director Sergio Leone to create the first of his own series of spaghetti westerns, A Fistful of Dollars, in 1964. The entire series is available on various DVD and Blu-ray releases. Check the Spaghetti Western database for links. I recommend watching these films with the attitude of a 12-year-old, as they suffer from authenticity, but feel the need for fun and adventure with gentle music and fantastic photography. What I mean by authenticity, remember, these were based on the writings of James Fenimore Cooper, and those adventure series took place in the East. So he takes the same characters Karl May does and places them in the West. So you'll see Apache Indians living in teepees. They didn't live in teepees. They lived in wickiups, which are made out of sticks and stones. They also didn't dress like he shows them portrayed in beads. Those were in buffaloes. Those were all Midwestern Indians, like the Sioux and Eastern Indians. So it's a combination of Eastern Indians portrayed as Southwestern Apache tribe members. So there is a difference in the way they were written as Eastern characters and portrayed as Western characters. Okay, that does it for an overview. And now we'll get into whatever became of, and we're going to concentrate on Lex Barker. Okay, Lex Barker was probably the most well-known of the German Winnetou American scouts or characters. He was born Alexander Critchlow Barker Jr. in Rye, New York on May 8, 1919. His father was Alexander Critchlow Barker Sr., 1887 to 1956, who was a wealthy Canadian-born building contractor and stockbroker, and his American wife, the former Marion Thornton Beals, 1889 to 1965. Barker had an old sister, Federica Amelia Freddie Barlow, 1917 to 1980. Barker was raised in New York City and Port Chester, New York. He attended the Fesden School and graduated from Phillips Exeter Academy. He played football as well as the oboe. He then attended Princeton University but dropped out to join a theatrical stock company, much to the chagrin of his family. Barker made it to Broadway once in a small role in a short run of Shakespeare's The Merry Wives of Windsor in 1938. He also had a small role in the Orson Welles disastrous Five Kings. He went on to serve during World War II in the Army and rose to the rank of major. After the war, he landed small roles before, in 1949, he became the screen's 10th official Tarzan in Tarzan's Magic Fountain. His blond, handsome, and intelligent appearance, as well as athletic 6'4" frame, helped him make him popular in the role. He appeared in 4 more Tarzan films. After the Tarzan films, he appeared as the lead in several mid-1950s westerns before his career began to fade. In 1957, as he found it harder to find work in American films, Barker moved to Europe. He could speak French, Italian, Spanish, and some German. There he found popularity and starred in over 40 European films. In Germany, he had his greatest success. There he starred in movies based on the Dr. Mabuse stories and hit stardom when he then played Old Shatterhand in an adaptation of the novel by German author Karl May. Treasure of the Silver Lake, 1962. He would appear in 7 of the Winnetou films. Though Barker did speak German, he was almost always dubbed in the West German films. His go-to dubber was Gert Gunther Hoffmann, whose distinctive voice contributed to Barker's success. In 1966, Barker was awarded the Bambi Award as Best Foreign Actor in Germany. He even recorded 2 songs in German, Ich bin morgen auf dem Weg zu dir, which is translated into the English, I'll be on the way to you tomorrow. Which was composed by Martin Boscher, the composer of some of the soundtracks of the Karl May movies, and Mädchen in Samt und Seide, Girl in Silk and Velvet. He returned to the United States occasionally and made a handful of guest appearances on American television episodes, but Europe and especially Germany was his professional home the remainder of his life. Lex was married 5 times, including to actresses Darlene Dahl, Lana Turner, and Irene Labart. His son Christopher was born in 1960 from his marriage to Labart, and he is an actor and singer. He even played the role of Old Shatterhand at the Karl May Festival in Bad Salzburg. Barker died on May 11, 1973 of a heart attack while walking down a street in New York City. The funeral was held in New York, but his cremated ashes were taken back to Spain by his estranged wife, Tita. So that's Lex Barker. Next, we'll turn to who are those guys, and we'll talk about Pierre Boulez. Okay, Pierre Boulez, I always thought as a wimpy Indian hero character until I read his bio, and he's far from that. Pierre Louis Le Boulez was born in Brest, France on February 6, 1929. When he was 19, he enlisted in the French army and fought in the First Indochina War. He then became a member of the Commandos Marine, a special forces of the French Navy, and became a paratrooper in the war in Algeria. His first film role was an uncredited role in 1955's Kaffa Barter. From 1962 to 68, he appeared in 11 Karl May Winnetou films with Lex Barker, 3 with Stuart Granger, and 1 with Rod Cameron. After the films, he also played Winnetou at the Karl May Festspiel in Elsp from 1977 to 1980, and then again from 1982 to 1986 at the Karl May Festival in Bad Salzburg Open Air Theater from 1988 to 1991. He also worked there until 1999 as director of several open air theater productions. Most of his acting career was mainly seen on television series. Boulez tried to escape the Winnetou character in a 1976 TV series, Star Maidens, and in several movies for the big screen, including Zorro, Control McKeesty in the lead role in '63. He also worked with Terence Hill, still called Mario Girardi at the time, and the shots in three-quarter time in 65. Again with Lex Barker in a place called Glory in 65, and in the anthology Killer's Carnival 66. Pierre, with the help of Martin Boscher, like Bex Barker, also recorded several 45 RPM singles in Germany. Since he didn't speak German, he had to sing them phonetically. Pierre Boulez died of pneumonia on June 6, 2015 in Paris, France. I'll list both Barker and Pierre Boulez's film roles in the YouTube posting. Next, we'll talk about the film of the week, which is Winnetou Returns. Okay, I consider this the last Winnetou film because it actually starred Pierre Boulez in a Winnetou role. The German title is Winnetou Rucker. Winnetou Returns in English. It was a 1997 German television production directed by Marjan David Vajda. The story and teleplay was by Werner Waldorf, Pierre Boulez, and Jean-Claude Deray. Photography was by Eberhard Geek and Martin Stingel. Music, which helps, was played by Martin Boscher. Running time was a two-part miniseries, total of 174 minutes. The lead characters and actors are Winnetou, played by Pierre Boulez, Mary, played by Candace Daly, Jean Mayotte, played by Pierre Semler, and Spencer, played by Tobias Holst. Other names you might recognize were Tonka, played by Buffalo Child, Tasha Tonga, played by Jimmy Herman, Kish KLK, played by Patrice Martinez, who played Virginia Escalante in the 1990 to 93 Zorro TV series with Duncan Rieger. We've already talked about Pierre, or let's talk about the story first of all. The story is a miracle has happened. Winnetou, played by Pierre Boulez, survived his own death. He was mistakenly pronounced dead, but an old medicine man nursed him back to health, and so Winnetou now lives in a cave in the mountains without being discovered. He doesn't want to see other people, but when a group of settlers and a befriended tribe of Indians are threatened by some bandits, he comes to their aid. A legal dispute came about over the use of the name Winnetou in this TV series. The Berlin film producer Regina Ziegler defended herself in the court proceedings against the Bamberg publishing house Karl May Verlag, which wanted to have her use the chief's name didn't want her to use the chief's name in the Karl May Verlag, but she wanted to for the ZDF production. The Federal Court of Justice, at the request of ZDF, declared the deletion of the name Winnetou Films from the list of protected brand names to be permissible, and the production continued. The film was shot in southern Spain at a cost of over 3.1 million euros. Several of the Native American actors were seen in the 1969's Dances with Wolves. Winnetou's return ends with the remark that Winnetou will be back. This left the possible production of further Winnetou episodes continuing, which, however, would not occur after the death of Winnetou's actor Winnetou Boulez in 2015. The main criticism of the series was a boring, sluggish script and the fact that Pierre Boulez dubbed his own voice, which brought out his French accent, which was never explained. In a Winnetou parody, The Shoe of Winnetou, it is said that Apanachi's father was fluent in French and never knew how he got it. As far as actors' profiles, we've already talked about Pierre Boulez before this. So we'll talk about Mary, who is played by Candace Daly, a sad story. Candace Daly was born on January 4th, 1966 in Los Angeles, California. She graduated from Our Lady of Corvallis High School in Studio City. In 1984, she graduated in 1984. She appeared in only 13 films and TV appearances from 1984 until 1998. The role which garnered her widest audience was psychotic Veronica Landers on the American soap opera The Young and the Restless from 1997 to 1998. Work was scarce for Daly after she left the soap, and she was found dead in a rundown Los Angeles apartment on December 14, 2004. The cause of death was listed as polydrug intoxication complicated by severe stereohepatitis, although her boyfriend stated that he believed she was a victim of foul play. She was only 38 years old. Then we have in the role of Jean Mayotte, Pierre Semler. Semler was born on April 19, 1943 in Gladbeck, Germany. He was a German-born French actor. In the beginning of his cinema career, he was credited under his real name Peter Semler, but later is mostly credited under his French version of his name Pierre. He appeared in over 100 film and TV appearances from 1977 until 2010. He was also a voice actor. He died in Germany of cancer on September 9, 2011 at the age of 68. And we have Spencer, played by Tobias Holzel. Tobias Holzel was born in Munich, Germany on September 29, 1961. Straight out of drama school, Italian film director Dino Risi hired him for his comedy film And Life Goes On. Since he's appeared in over 70 films and TV appearances. His last appearance was in 2 episodes of the German TV series SOKO Wismar in 2018. This series is about a special investigation team. Okay, from there we'll turn to Tom's poster attic. Okay, we'll show you a couple of the initial Winnetou film, Treasure of Silver Lake. First of all, I have the American press guide, and I said these were used for advertising sheets. You cut these out and send them to newspapers and print what time and what theaters they're being shown at. A lot of times biographies on the back, which were just printed by the companies. They really were inaccurate most of the time. I also have the American poster. And as you can see, it was shot in flaming arrow color. Always came up with variations of color for these films just to draw attention. And I have the German poster. And again, like the ones we showed during the presentation, these and the Yugoslavian posters, after every film was basically showed the same of Winnetou and Shatterhand or Sheerhand standing on the rocks. So then we'll switch to Autograph of the Week. Okay, Autograph of the Week is 3 handsome gents. We have Bill Connolly, Aldo Sambrell, and of course your favorite. This is when Aldo was here in 2004, I think. He was attending the Word on Western's Golden Boot Award, and we got to interview him for a couple of hours. He was a great guy, knew everything about his films, but he just overloaded us with information. Also, a link to the Shatterhand or the Winnetou films. Bill and I used to go to used bookshops, and I'd scour the used TV guides looking for when the Winnetou films appeared on Los Angeles television. I never saw them ever come up. So as far as I know, they were never shown on TV in the Los Angeles area. If they were shown in Los Angeles theaters, I'm unaware of it. Like I said, I showed you a press guide, so they did show it at some theaters, but I don't recall them ever being, I never remember seeing them in any of the newspapers, so I don't know where they appeared, maybe in drive-ins or something like that, but they were very obscure in the Los Angeles area. Okay, next we'll go to Book of the Week. Okay, book of the week. And this is a Croatian book on the film sites of all the Winnetou films, since that's where they were filmed. It's in Serbian and shows pictures, got maps, got locations, but unless you speak the language, difficult to understand. But they've got books on locations in every language for films, and that's just one of the ones I've got for the Winnetou films. Okay, now we'll go to CD of the week. It's actually LP of the week. Okay, LP of the week is Old Shatterhand, and this is not done by Martin Botcher. This is done by Riz Ortolani. It's out of Germany. It's on the Saline label, number CLSP 5001-X. Was released in 1985, has 15 tracks and 38 minutes and 34 seconds of listening enjoyment. The value runs from anywhere from 70 to 80 bucks. So if you're lucky to pick one of these up, they're worth a nice penny today. And that'll do it for LP of the week. Next, we'll switch to the weekly news. The only thing I have to report this week is at Boot Hill, and we've all found out about the death of Jean-Louis Trintignant. And everybody knows about Jean, so I didn't even print anything out to talk about him. We know him as Silence in the Great Silence. And the theory goes that he was approached by Sergio Corbucci, and he at first turned down the role because he didn't want to be dubbed in France, and he didn't want to speak with a French accent. So they got around that by making him a deaf, or basically a mute. And they show that in the flashback as a kid, they slit his throat so he couldn't talk. And that's how he was projected in the film, as not being able to speak. And the connection with the bad guys and he comes to know them at the time the story was filmed. So he was one of the great French actors, been ill for a while, had tragedy in his life. His daughter was killed by her boyfriend a number of years ago, which he never seemed to get over. And after a number of years, he learned to forgive and forget, and forgave the boyfriend, who was a famous French singer. But sad to see one of the greats of the genre go. And that does it for this week. There's a bunch of DVDs that were released. I placed on my blog, but they're re-releases of earlier releases this year, so I didn't think it was worth getting into them again. And we didn't have much information on them, just a picture. They're all come out of Japan. So go to the Spaghetti Westerns database and look them up in the section that Seb has set aside for DVD and Blu-ray releases, and you can check on them, where they're released, what labels and stuff like that. Okay. Before we leave, don't want you to forget that to check out Jay's Retro Time Machine podcast, and he's still working with C. Courtney Joyner, I'm sorry, and they've retitled the horror film podcast Professor Lampini's Podcast of Horrors. It is supposed to come out this month, but we haven't got a specific date. So keep tuned. I'll tell you about it. I'm sure Jay will publish any information on Facebook. Okay? Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next week, where we're going to have a Fistful of Dollars special. Talk to you then. In the meantime, adios, amigos.